Hello, I'm Will, and this is my wife Dallas.
Hi.
And this is Not the Beginning, a podcast where a longtime Wheel of Time fan and a Wheel of Time newbie watch and discuss Amazon's The Wheel of Time. In this special season of Not the Beginning, we'll be discussing Season 1 of the Amazon Prime series, The Wheel of Time.
Note, at the time of recording, I have finished reading through The Great Hunt, but have not read further. If you have not read Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt, please proceed with caution.
A warning, this podcast probably won't be suitable for younger audiences, and will definitely contain spoilers.
On this episode of Not the Beginning, we will be diving in and discussing episodes 1 through 3 of the first season of The Wheel of Time, Leave Taking, Shadows Waiting, and A Place of Safety. If you have not seen through The Wheel of Time episode 3, please proceed with caution.
It's finally here.
It is.
I have been waiting for this for so long.
I know.
So long. And I have seen 3 episodes of The Wheel of Time.
How are you feeling?
Mixed.
Okay.
I like it. There are a few things I need, and a few things I recognize that I just want, but aren't super realistic for a TV show.
Yeah.
It starts off a little rocky. I think episode 1 is probably going to end up being the worst episode of the whole series.
The episode 1 of an epic fantasy adaptation series usually is.
Right. It's not... I think the pilot of Game of Thrones was better, but I think the follow-on episodes, like if you take the first 3 episodes of Game of Thrones, which is the inevitable comparison, even though it's not the same thing.
Even though we talk about Game of Thrones a lot on this podcast.
Yeah. It's not the same thing. But if you took the first 3 episodes of Game of Thrones and the first 3 episodes of Wheel of Time, the Wheel of Time would win. I think the first 3 episodes are more solid.
Yeah, because the first 3 episodes of Game of Thrones have the same slow pacing.
Right.
It's like the main criticism that I've seen The Wheel of Time having is that the first episode's just really slow and sloggy.
Oh, see, I've seen the opposite, that it's crazy fast. I think the first episode could have been 20 to 30 minutes longer, and it would have been far better.
Mm-hmm.
My main complaint with episode 1 is that, one, the like cold open sucks. I understand why they did it.
I disagree.
I did not like the voiceover with Moiraine, and I didn't like the Reds hunting down a man who could channel as the opening. It should have started with the scene that they do right after the like title page. It's really just the title page.
Because they don't go through the whole sequence until episode 2.
Right. The one that they do that with the women walking to like Egwene's ceremony would have been a much better introduction to the series.
I can see your point, but I kind of disagree, just as I am so new to this series that if I hadn't read the books yet, if I had just started with the Women's Circle thing, I would have been very confused as to what this show is about. You want
Fair.
The first scene of anything to hook you. That it's called The Hook for a reason. It's supposed to hook the audience.
I think Egwene getting yeeted into a river is a hook.
But that's not the point of the series. You gotta hook them for the series. And the point is the Dragon Reborn.
So, like, I understand why the voiceover exists. But one thing I do think is I think that the voiceover and that scene... At the very least, they should have cut out that scene of Leandrin and the Reds chasing down.
I agree with that.
That was bad.
I didn't need that. One, because, like, and I know this is a dumb critique, but, like, he was running past forests on the road.
I mean, he's insane, but still.
I said it was a dumb criticism, but,
They should have cut that out. The voiceover still wouldn't have been great.
But if they had gone from that and then Egwene getting yeeted off a cliff.
Yeah. And that kind of ties into one of my problems with all of episode 1 is that it feels like every time Moiraine shows up, they're reintroducing you to Moiraine. She's like slowly fading into focus, or she's just standing there mysteriously, which is Moiraine. But every time it felt like, okay, well, this could have been a trailer, this could have been a trailer, this could have been a trailer, this could have been a trailer. And it's like, just let her do stuff. She doesn't need to be dramatically fading into focus every time she's on screen here.
That's fair.
The whole thing generally smelled of very, very heavy studio involvement.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I think it was bad. I just thought it was a little clunky and could have used a little bit more of... I'll say Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, could have used a little bit more of his original vision.
I think I agree with you there a little bit, especially because of one of my main criticisms in episode 1, which I'm not sure, we'll see when we get to it in our big discussion. But parts of it don't necessarily seem like they were done with love for the characters.
Yeah.
part of it, and it just doesn't seem like it was done with love and care.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Perrin.
Perrin's very complicated, and we're talking about it now, so we'll just talk about it. One of the big changes to the series is that Perrin starts out with a wife, Layla, who he kills during the events of Winter Night, sort of mistakenly. I don't like that he killed his wife. I don't think they should have fridged a character in the first episode. They probably shouldn't ever do that because it's just not good. But had they done it to somebody else, like, the only problem I have with that, or the only big problem I have with that, is how they executed it, not what they did.
Yes, that's mostly my problem with it. And I think it's just the reason that I have a problem with him killing his own wife. Like, if he had killed anyone else on accident.
The suggestion I've seen is that he should have killed Harald Luhan, his blacksmith master.
That
would have been great. That would have done exactly the same thing.
It's just, you literally created a character that did not exist with the sole purpose of having her husband murder her to cause him trauma. It's trauma porn.
Yeah, I think that there are things that they could do to make it better after the fact. If she turns out to be, as a theory exists, and one I actually kind of subscribe to, if she turns out to be a dark friend, I think that makes it a lot better.
It does redeem it, and I didn't necessarily agree with that
until I
rewatched it.
And she's swinging a hammer at the Trolloc that he's wolfing out on, but the Trolloc's dead, and he's the only one in the way of the hammer.
Yeah, when he turns and accidentally, because he just hears something behind him, and he thinks, oh my god, there's a Trolloc behind me, and he's already wolfing out, as you said, on this Trolloc. Overkill, but, he's wolfing out.
Right.
And he accidentally hits her with the axe. She has her axe raised above her head.
Hammer. It's a hammer.
It's a hammer?
Very important.
Okay.
It's a hammer. Because this is the start of Perrin's whole hammer or axe thing.
Ah, okay.
Literally the only thing that is different about him killing a wife versus Harald Luhan is that it's a wife.
Yeah.
Because all of the same stuff still exists.
But she does have her hammer raised as if she's about to strike.
She's mid-swing.
She's mid-swing. And she's swinging... Perrin's over the Trolloc.
Right.
It's not, so...
There really wasn't a way she could have brought that down and not hit Perrin.
Yeah, and that did seem a little sketchy on the rewatch.
Later, the wolf is eating her, and the books go to a lot of lengths to establish that for everyone, but for Perrin especially, wolves mean good.
And in the book, we do see the wolves in his dreams trying to attack Balsamon.
Right.
And so why would a wolf be eating his wife?
Right.
If
she's a dark friend. Now,
that is a shame, because if she does turn out to be a dark friend, that'll be two female characters that they made me attached to, and then turned into dark friends. Because there's Layla, who the first image of her we get is her just blacksmithing by herself.
I know. Now, that's another small problem I have, is that I like that she's a blacksmith, and I love that she was kind of brooding, which is very Perrin. She's brooding and blacksmithing on her own to, seemingly, I guess, work out some of her aggression. I like that. I also would have liked to see Perrin do it. There are a lot of things that they did that I like that they did them, but they needed to do it with more than one character.
I didn't necessarily need to see Perrin blacksmithing.
It's half of his identity is that he's a blacksmith, and we have yet to see him work iron.
That's fair.
He's a fucking blacksmith.
That is fair. But yeah, the first introduction of her we get is her blacksmithing and being generally badass and having fantastic arms.
And she's got all those piercings all the way up her ear. It's great. I wanted more Layla.
And then clearly her and Perrin were having some sort of relationship problem.
Yeah.
Because she's blacksmithing by herself while literally the entire town is celebrating Beltane.
Yeah.
And then he comes in to see her and very adamantly tells her that he loves her, and then she's like, I know.
Yeah.
But not in a Han Solo way.
No, and I know, I'm not saying it back.
Yeah. Not a cocky, not saying it back, because I'll see you again later. It's I'm not necessarily feeling I want to say it to you.
Yeah.
It's just I don't...
Why?
Overall, I do not like it.
Yeah. I think that there are things that they could do to make it better.
They could have used an already existing character.
Right. There are things that they could do to make it better, but I don't think it's ever going to be great.
Because I do think it's going to be some sort of shorthand.
It definitely is.
To more quickly get him to be...
So much of Perrin's journey is, like, internal and cerebral. And
Yeah.
that doesn't work for a TV show, because you
No.
have to be able to show it.
And especially since they cut out Elias before the Tinkers.
Right.
We might see Elias at some point.
I think at least we have to wait until season 2. It might be longer. It might be never. We might never see Elias. Which would be a shame.
I also don't know that I ever see Elias again in the books. I'm up, like...
Yeah.
It could be that they moved him later. We probably see him again. I feel like they put too much focus on his backstory and continue to bring him up for him not to show up again. Kind of like Bail Domon. Like, why did he matter?
Who I also don't think we're seeing.
I'm okay with that. He
Yeah.
do be not present in the show.
Yeah. The other one, so I was talking about things that I liked that they made one character do, but I needed to see another character do it. The cold open for episode 3, where we learn how Nynaeve survives Winter Night. She kills a Trolloc. I love that Nynaeve, one, snuck up and killed a Trolloc on her own, and she kept the sword, which was a nice touch.
Yeah.
She's fucking ferocious. During the events of Winter Night, a Trolloc rounds a corner and screams at them, and she screams back, and I love it.
I love Nynaeve. I love book Nynaeve. I also love show Nynaeve.
Yeah.
I totally understand Lan.
Yeah.
Like,
The only thing
I'm kind of in love with Nynaeve too.
I love that she killed a Trolloc. I needed Tam to kill a Trolloc too.
I did too. I needed there to be 2 Trollocs at the farm.
He cuts one up and he hurts it a lot, and Rand ultimately kills it, and I don't think Rand would have been able to kill it without Tam. But Tam's a blade master.
Yeah. I did at least like that we got to actually see Rand watching his father cut the shit out of this Trolloc. Because in the book, he jumps out a window and then comes back.
He's like,
to
how did my dad do this?
Had to find a dead Trolloc, and then another one comes up and he kills that one.
Right.
So there could have been 2 Trollocs. Tam could have easily just killed one right off the bat and then been fighting this second one and then got injured and then Rand killed that one. I would have liked in the books also for Rand and Tam to work together to kill the Trollocs. That would have been a good thing in the books too. So
I liked that he did that one, but I think that scene would have been not much longer and better if there were 2 of them. Tam dispatches the one quickly.
Yeah.
And then the other one just overpowers him because he's old and out of practice.
Right. And worried about his son.
Right.
Because Rand gets thrown into a fireplace hearth, which any normal person, that would probably just break your back.
They did a surprisingly good job on something very hard to do, which is the Trollocs.
They did. The Trollocs look better in slow shots.
You can tell that they are CGI enhanced.
But if you watch an interview with Rafe
Judkins,
he talks about how the Trollocs are a mix of prosthetics and costuming and CGI, and they did that so that when they were CGI'd, you couldn't really tell where the actor stops and the CGI begins. And I do think that
when you have the time to look at the Trolloc, it shows that they did a really, really good job with them.
When they're running in the daytime, they looked a little wonky.
They looked like rubbery.
Yeah. Especially when they were running across the water.
Yeah.
But at night, they looked great.
Yeah, they looked fine. When they're moving quickly, I think, is when it breaks a little bit for me.
Yeah.
When they're close up, they look fantastic.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that they have some of them that, one, they look as varied as they should.
They do look very varied.
They look a little less human than I think they do in the books. Because they're supposed to be just big humans with beastly features.
Oh, I just saw them as entirely beast in the picture in my head.
They are. Some of them are, some of them aren't. There's a spectrum because on the one spectrum you have Murdral, and on the other spectrum you have Total Beast. All of these look very, very bestial, but it works for the show because... But
so does the Murdral.
Right, the Murdral, they do a really good job with the Murdral.
I don't
really good job with the Murdral.
Necessarily like that they don't have eyes, but...
They don't have eyes.
But they don't have eye sockets.
Yeah, I didn't picture them with it as anything because I can't picture things, but I did kind of imagine them with empty eye sockets.
Yeah, that's what I did too. And a nose.
Voldemort is fine.
Yeah,
Voldemort.
They do kind of look like Voldemort, except there's not
the lips are weird.
There's no nostril holes.
There's no
It's
nostril
literally
holes.
just a mouth and then smooth to the skull.
Like weirdly plump lips.
They've got all those teeth. They gotta have lips to close over the teeth.
It's just weird. It's unsettling, which is what a Murdral should be.
Their screams are fantastic.
Yeah. Good old Dan.
And I do like Dan.
Dan the Murdral. But yeah, anyway, back on Trollocs. Like, I loved that they had like a really good variety in what they could do, and that some of them ran like animals.
Yeah.
Like, it was great. It made them feel like this, like, monstrous, disorganized, just kind of like rushing flood force.
It was scary.
Yeah, it was good. Winter Night itself in episode 1 was pretty solid. Like I said, the two main problems I had were Perrin killing his wife and Tam not going to town.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I think we might get in a flashback is I think we might get a flashback of Rand's trek back to town, which we also missed during Winter Night.
I would have liked to see that.
I think we might get it in a flashback because I think if they showed that and Tam's fever dream, it would be really obvious that Rand is the dragon. Because earlier in the episode, Moiraine goes to Nynaeve and makes a big deal about confirming that Nynaeve was not from the Two Rivers.
Yes.
Which actually isn't a change. She's not from the Two Rivers. She's from a little way out, like relatively close by. She's a wisdom.
They move.
The change there is that her like wisdom mentor, one, adopted her, and two, was a White Tower reject. Which there's some stuff to unpack there. Just because she could listen to the wind doesn't mean she could channel. It doesn't mean that she wasn't old enough to be, or, she wasn't too old to be able to channel. And it doesn't mean that she was strong enough for the Aes Sedai to train her.
Except that when Moiraine is talking to Egwene in episode 2 about, like, what do you call it?
Listening to the wind.
And she's like, listening to the wind. And she's like, women all over have different names for it. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
She says that listening to the wind is channeling.
Yeah, but wisdoms don't know that. And so if
but
a
you
wisdom...
said that just because she could listen to the wind doesn't mean she could channel.
Just because she says she could listen to the wind, or people claim or think she can listen to the wind. They don't know Nynaeve can channel. Nynaeve doesn't know Nynaeve can channel.
Nynaeve can actually listen to the wind.
Right. And so it could just be that her wisdom mentor was mistaken. Because I really, really doubt that they're actually having the Aes Sedai in this iteration turn away women who can channel just because of how they look and how they sound. They're the Aes Sedai.
I did like the
don't do
introduction of that because it does kind of provide a reason for Nynaeve to not like Moiraine from the get-go.
Yeah, again, that was another thing that, like, I'm okay with it. It wasn't very well done because it was just kind of like Moiraine fades into view and is like, "Hi, you should hate me," and then the scene ends.
Yeah,
I
liked that scene.
She cuts out Nynaeve basically as being in consideration for being Dragon Reborn, which big change. We haven't talked about that. Big change. The dragon can be anyone.
Yes.
Not a huge departure from the books necessarily, in that they are kind of combining the dragon with the dragon can also be called the adversary of the Dark One. There is a female equivalent of the dragon in the books. So they're kind of combining the dragon and Amarisu, which is the name of the female adversary. They're kind of combining
I guess
them.
spoilers, but like...
No.
Yeah, I did like that. So in the introduction after, like, Moiraine says something about there's 5...
It's 4 Ta'veren.
She said there's 5 of them. She says there's 4 Ta'veren, but I feel like she mentions 5 people who could be the dragon inside the Two Rivers. And she eliminates Nynaeve.
Yeah.
And so then it's just 4.
I think I don't think she ever mentions 5.
Was it one of the trailers that said 5 then? Yeah. Okay.
One of the trailers, the line is the 5 of you.
Why did they film that twice?
I don't know. That was a mistake. They shouldn't have done that. One, Nynaeve, I will gladly, emphatically give that Egwene should be in contention. Egwene's fucking Ta'veren, and she is Ta'veren here, which is a change. She's Ta'veren in the books. She's just not called Ta'veren.
Yeah.
Nynaeve doesn't deserve that. Nynaeve deserves better.
Although
She does have main character syndrome in the show, where a Trolloc drags her,
for like
a while.
a mile by her hair. So in Winter Night, mostly the Trollocs are not even bothering to actually kill the villagers before just eating them.
I think they're killing and just moving on. I didn't see too many, hunched over, nom nom.
Matt trips over 3 of them.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They're just eating people.
Mm.
And so this Trolloc just grabs Nynaeve by the hair
And drags her off.
And then drags her through the woods for a little stroll.
Yeah.
And then drops her, sees another Trolloc that's injured. And on the first watch, he seemed concerned for half a second. And I was like, aw, Trolloc friends. Nope.
Nope, he starts eating it.
He starts eating his Trolloc friend.
A nice touch. They do that. Fun fact about that scene, when she gets up and starts running, I think one of the times that they filmed it, she outran the camera cart, Zoe Robbins.
Nice.
Which makes me love her even more. Also, we're going to take a moment
That's some
here.
big Nynaeve energy.
It is. We're going to take a moment here to acknowledge the glory of the braid.
It is such a good braid.
Oh my god.
It is such a good
It's
braid.
glorious.
It's so much bigger than everyone else's. And
it's like Nynaeve's in charge and she's got the braid to show it.
The only person whose braid I liked as much was Layla's, because she's got a Viking braid going on.
Yeah.
Because she had shaved sides of her
Why
head.
did they develop her character so much just to kill her? They have to bring her up again.
She looked so
Why did they
keep talking about Layla? Anyway, Nynaeve's braid. But yeah, why would a Trolloc just drag a random woman through the woods?
She's the main character. She's not Ta'Veren.
It was main character syndrome, though, so I'm wondering, maybe the 4 Ta'Veren needed Nynaeve, so it extended to her somehow.
Yeah, totally believable. Rand pulls that shit in the Eye of the World, too. He brings people who he needs around him.
Oh, now I'm thinking of, the 5 of them. Dana says it.
Yeah.
So it is suspected that one of the 5 of them is the dragon, at least by the Dark Friends.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm fine with that being wrong. Moraine could be wrong. Moraine and the prophecies could be wrong. Because it's a theme of the Wheel of Time is shit changes over time.
Yeah.
And so who knows how much the prophecies have changed from when they were given to when they are looking for them.
I do need them to reunite soon and
I think it'll be another episode.
Because there is something else that's been bothering me, and I figured out on the rewatch that she didn't say the line that I thought she said. But when she talks about the 4 Ta'Veren in the 2 Rivers, and then she goes to Nynaeve and tries to establish, because she heard a rumor that Nynaeve was not from there, so she had to confirm what it was. And then later they get back, and Lan asks, do you know which one it is? And she still doesn't know.
Right.
It implies that she thinks Rand, Egwene, Matt, and Perrin are not from the 2 Rivers. Or that she doesn't know. And I just think
she doesn't know.
Honestly, though, it wouldn't have been that hard for her to go and ask the innkeeper where she's staying. Where was your daughter born?
Right.
And then, or ask, about Perrin. How long has Perrin been a blacksmith? And then people, it's a small town, they would have been I remember when Perrin was born. I remember when Matt was born. Gwen was born on that table over there in the inn because her mom wouldn't leave. Those are stories that would have gotten told. And then, but it would make it very obvious that Rand is the dragon.
Right.
It is kind of already obvious, though.
I mean, Tom talks about the Aiel.
And then Tom also sings a very pointed song about
Lews Therin. Which is great. And, it's Lews Therin.
It's very pointed, too. It's
I do wonder...
How Ta'Veren is that the second Rand shows up?
Very. Well, he and Matt are both there.
That Tom decides to sing a song about Lews Therin. And then, Matt has the dagger, and so he's going to steal shit, and he goes to try to rob a dead Aiel in a cage, and Tom's there to bury the Aiel. And they point out the hair, and then they do a very zoom in on the hair.
And they shift to Rand.
And then they shift to Rand, who's locked in a room with a dark friend, and then breaks down a door that he's not supposed to be able to break down.
Look, Rand's just strong, okay?
She said it would take 3 fully grown men, implying that Rand is not fully grown.
Obviously, she underestimates the men of the 2 Rivers. To be fair, everybody underestimates the men from the 2 Rivers. Perrin could break that door down, no problem. Perrin's worth 3 men.
Perrin also has wolf powers.
That doesn't make him stronger. Just makes him more wolfy.
It would take Perrin a lot longer to try to break that door down, though.
So, speaking of the dagger, you brought up the dagger. Shadar Logoth happens in like a blink. It's
Which I
very
don't
quick.
mind.
I don't mind, sort of. There are elements of Shadar Logoth that are incredibly important later.
I mean, we do get Land's story time.
We do get Lan, and they changed the backstory of Shadar Logoth a little bit in a good way. I like that it was Shadar Logoth that denied Manetheren help. That's good, and it gels with the setting very well. What I didn't like about Shadar Logoth is that there were no Shadow Spawn in there, and Padan Fain has to have the dagger at some point.
Padan Fain doesn't get the dagger in Shadar Logoth.
No, but he gets obsessed with the dagger in Shadar Logoth.
No.
He runs into Mordeth, which is where the whole thing starts to happen.
But he doesn't ever see the dagger.
No.
Matt just randomly picks up the dagger in a trophy room. That's how he
True.
gets it. He doesn't
That's
get
true.
the dagger from Mordeth. That's the whole point. That's why he doesn't tell Moraine immediately,
Right.
because she said, don't take anything from anyone. And she actually tells him about Mordeth, and then...
Right. Okay, that's true.
But, so he just...
I do wonder, like, how
Padan
are they
Fain
going
steals
to...
the dagger because he just steals the dagger,
Yeah.
and then it corrupts him.
Right. But Mordeth is also an important part of that.
Mordeth and Padan Fain were implicated in the Shadar Logoth scene, which I do enjoy.
There were whispering voices and whistling.
The whistling it sounds like Padan Fain.
Right, and it's how they introduced Padan Fain. Is he's whistling when he comes into the Two Rivers.
He-
I'm just curious how they're going to get to that point with what they've shown so far.
I don't remember how Padan Fain steals the dagger either.
With the horn.
Why did Matt not have his dagger on him?
He did. He took it off of Matt.
Oh, I don't remember this at all.
I mean, it's partially because Mordeth wanted the dagger.
And he was kind of corrupted with Mordeth.
Right.
It makes me wonder what Padan Fain took from Mordeth to let Mordeth out. Because I feel like he's partially Mordeth.
He's like a combination of Mordeth and Padan Fain.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's bad. It's bad.
We do get some Padan Fain creepiness in episode 1, too, which I kind of like that they're just accelerating him being creepy.
Yeah. When the Trollocs attack, he's just whistling in the background and he just leaves.
Yeah, he just kind of smiles watching the Trollocs eat a bunch of people, and then
Right.
packs up his cart and goes.
Oh, you know what? That might have just answered a question. So one question I had with the intro was, how the fuck are there rumors of Taviran coming out of the Two Rivers where no one's ever been? Probably Padan Fain. And that's probably how Dana knows about Egwene. And
She's been seeing dreams of them.
that's true.
She said
Padan
she's been
Fain's a
seeing,
better explanation.
but her being able to see dreams of Egwene explains how her costuming changed, which I didn't notice on the first watch. Because Dana is the innkeeper at this town that Matt and
The inn
Rand
is the Four Kings, which is a nod to the books. Because that's basically, episode 3 has a condensation of Matt and Rand traveling throughout, encountering dark friends. And the Four Kings is the one where they encounter it the worst. That's the inn in Breen's Spring.
Anyway, Dana's the innkeeper, and, they work for Dana for coin because, they don't have any money and they don't have any stuff.
Tom stole their money?
Well, Tom stole Matt's money because Matt was kind of being a dick because he has the dagger, and Rand's just like, let's go see if, we can get a room for cheap or work for it. Rand's just being like, let's see if we can work for our money, or for our room.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Rand chops like a shit ton of wood. And Dana is when we first meet her, she's wearing like this red vest, and she has her hair up in like a bun. But later when she's showing Rand the room where she's going to be giving Matt and Rand room to stay, also thinks that Matt and Rand are a couple, and tells him that no one can hear anything that happens in this room, so if you need a slap and tickle to get over your marital problems, no one will be able to hear.
And Rand responds with, if I wanted a man, I could do better than Matt.
Yeah, he's not like offended that she thinks that he could be with a man. He just thinks it's funny that she thinks he could be with Matt.
Does this Rand have bi energy? Matt definitely does.
Oh, yeah. Matt
does
from line 1. Just the way he starts rolling dice, he just has very good bi energy.
Yeah.
I mean,
does this Rand have bi energy? He might.
He at least has very secure in his masculinity energy.
That's true.
Because he's just like, I know Matt and I aren't together. And she's like, I don't have a problem with what men do in the dark. And he's like, no, if I wanted a man, I could do better than that.
Yeah.
And then they flirt. But on the second watch, I realized that she's changed.
Right.
And because she pointed out, she tries to make a move on Rand, and Rand's like, no. And she's like, oh, I came on too strong. I shouldn't have braided my hair. I look too much like her. And then she talks about Egwene. Her costuming has changed too. She's wearing a blouse very similar to Egwene's, except Egwene's, she has buttoned up, and Dana's is open to reveal the tits. She's wearing a skirt that has very similar pattern. She's got her hair braided, very similar to Egwene's. She had to have she wouldn't have changed her clothes if she hadn't seen Egwene.
That's true. Well, she could also just know what Two Rivers people dress like.
Like, the pattern on the skirt is the same. That's
true.
That's too much of a, like, costuming department wanted to do some cool stuff, but she also, like, you had to have seen the vision.
Yeah, definitely.
And then she turns out to be a dark friend. That's the second, like, she's the first character that I'm like, oh, I really like her.
Yeah.
Dark friend.
She gets knifed in the throat by Tom.
So if Layla also gets
that
turned into a dark friend.
Suspicious of every new character.
I'm now going to be like, what does that say that I had to be suspicious of every new female? I don't want to be suspicious of every new female on the show.
It's fair.
Like, make some man that they introduce themselves to a dark friend.
Give us Piter.
Not a character that doesn't already exist.
Okay.
They have to create a male character and then turn him into a dark friend.
Slight counterpoint here. Most of the characters we've met so far have been women.
Yes, but still.
Most of the characters, I think, are women.
It's just going to perpetuate the evil woman thing.
I agree.
People are dumb.
I definitely agree.
And the bros are going to latch onto it. That all women are dark friends.
We already did the ta'veren thing. It's definitely Pat and Fane, and I hadn't put that together before just now. I think that we talked a little bit about Moiraine not really doing investigating in the Two Rivers, which is something I think that they could have maybe started that and, like, eliminated someone. Like, like Perrin, I think, is the prime candidate for elimination there. Because
Honestly,
he pretty quickly is going to have other stuff going on.
I think it would have been, like, it wouldn't have been hard for Moiraine to interview Egwene's parents because she's staying in the inn that they own.
Yes, but they clearly want Egwene to be in contention.
That's fair, especially since she can
they've
channel.
Changed the lore to make it so that she can be in contention.
Yeah.
The other change that they make to characters... I don't mind it. The other change that they can make to character, or that they've made to characters, rather, is that Matt's parents are shitty people.
Here's my thing, coming from a person who's only read 2 books. I know nothing about Matt's parents at all. I don't even know their names. That's not a change for me. That's just adding. That's just adding information about Matt's parents.
That's fair. It does lead to immediately a sort of knock-on effect where Matt wants to come back to the Two Rivers to take care of his sisters.
I don't necessarily like.
I think this is the change in characters that I like the least. It's not Matt. Matt wanted to leave. Matt, besides Egwene, who wanted to leave and study with Moiraine, Matt wanted to see the world the most. Not go back to the same sleepy old village that he's lived in for his entire life.
With abusive parents.
Right. I don't mind, and I think it has the potential to pay off that he wants to take care of his sisters, but I don't like that he's the one that wants to go. He's the one that wants to go home, and Rand's the one that wants to keep going, and that's not at all those characters. They fuzz the lines a lot between Matt and Rand. There's too much Rand in Matt and too much Matt in Rand, and I'm not a big fan of that.
I think that because they're making Moiraine the main character of this season, that was going to be inevitable.
Maybe.
But also, like, I don't like that Matt wants to go home. However, the side effect of him coming from a family like that does have an effect on his character that's different from his character in the books that I do actually like. He's more compassionate.
He is.
There's when Winter Night's going on, he, runs and hides and finds his parents, and then he's like, where are the girls?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I don't know, they were right here. And then he screams at them again, and then they're like, ah! And then
he goes to,
and then he runs out, and he's just like staring at this destruction for a bit, and then has to think, like, where would they hide?
Right.
And so he goes and finds them, takes them to the woods, they hide until the end.
Right. And then they're fine.
There's also, like, when they're reunited and, his mom's all like, oh my god, the girls! Not even paying attention to Matt. Matt sees Perrin carrying out his dead wife and just immediately goes to Perrin.
Yeah.
It's this emphasis of found family, which I absolutely adore. Like, I love found family. It reinforces that a little bit more. And there's a lot of really compassionate moments between Matt and Perrin that don't happen in the books.
No.
And I think that this Matt is just a more compassionate Matt, and I actually like it. Which
those bits of Matt I like. And I think that it will be much more in line with, you haven't seen this Matt yet in the books, because we're still dealing with Dagger Matt.
And the pre-Dagger Matt, he was still kind of like he's a
teenager.
He's a teenage fuckboy. Like, he was a fuckboy before. They did age him up, which gets him a little bit out of that fuckboy stage, and he still is a little bit like...
He's the quippiest.
But he's not, like, dismissive.
It feels like they went to quippy as the way to establish Matt as Matt, instead of some of the other things. Like, Matt's not just quippy. He's got a sense of adventure.
Which he doesn't have.
Right. And maybe we'll get that with the dagger, and maybe it'll get better over the season. But right now, Egwene's the only one with any sense of adventure, which is fine. Rand has a little bit, but only because he wants to go find Egwene.
Yeah, and Egwene's like, I think Rand would go home, and Perrin's like, well, then you don't know Rand very well. He thinks you're going to Tar Valon, so he's going to Tar Valon.
Right. So...
Which is just another moment of Perrin still being the voice of reason, which I enjoy.
Yeah. So that bit is not something I'm particularly fond of. What I am fond of is the White Cloak changes. I need an answer here. It doesn't need to be a full answer, but I need an answer as to how they captured and killed an Aes Sedai.
Yeah. I mean, they cut off her hands.
They cut off her hands, which, like, maybe she's in too much pain to be able to channel, and I can accept that. Except, I can't accept that just because they don't have hands, they can't channel. That's a massive shift. And it gets away from some stuff. Because in the books, at some point, they're, like, kind of making fun of some women channelers who, like, do all this, like, waving their hands and stuff. Because it's like, when you learn how to channel that way, you can't channel just by commanding things.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, whoa, you're waving your hands. Haha, we don't have to wave our hands, you suck. And that's just not, like, blindfolder or something.
I do think some answers there would be helpful. That is something, because that character, that the questioner that kills her, I have not met yet.
If he's a questioner, that's a fairly big difference from the books.
Is he not a questioner?
He's not a questioner. He dislikes questioners. That's a fine change, I think.
They could have combined him with someone.
They could have, and I think they might have.
But we can't talk about it because I haven't met.
Right, you haven't met either.
Yeah, I haven't met anyone. They do at least make a difference between Bornhold and the Questioner, because I don't even remember the Questioner's name.
I don't think he's ever actually named. I don't think
he's
been named yet.
He's just the Questioner, because I'm not looking up on anything about the show. Because I don't want to accidentally get spoiled.
So many spoilers.
Yeah, I don't want to get spoiled for the books. I don't mind show spoilers, but like
this one, it was a relatively safe thing to figure out because it's on X-ray. So like if we look for more information within the episode itself,
we would have seen
it shows his character's name.
And I guess I could look up stuff on IMDb just to see like actors and characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not looking up stuff on the show. But they did make a nice difference between Bornhold and the Questioner dude in the scene where they encounter Moiraine and everyone.
Right.
Because Moiraine passes her ring off to Lan, and then they, like, get questioned, and Moiraine doesn't tell any lies.
Nope. It's a very good display of her command of the oaths.
Yeah, because they're like, where are you coming from? And she's like, we're coming from, whatever the river town.
We're coming from Tarn Ferry.
Tarn Ferry. She has an injury that the Questioner, as he's basically like molesting her.
Right.
Like just feeling her up and being generally creepy.
In a creepy, but I do have to say, not sexual way.
Yeah, like it's like non-sexual molestation, but like it's like I don't know what the word.
Severe violation of her privacy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't trying to be sexual with her.
No.
And that did come across.
Yeah, but he was still like feeling her up.
Right. And they asked Lan where he's from. He's like, I'm from the Borderlands, where men know better than to touch a woman without asking.
No, he's like, where men know to keep their hands off of women.
Lest they lose them. Okay, we're going to take a break here and talk about how much I absolutely love Lan and Moiraine. It's a lot. They're fantastic.
They're connected and they're friends. And they have like a tenderness and a love for each other, but they've made a very big distinction that it's not sexual. Right. Even the fact that they took a bath together.
Right. They took a full-on, entirely nude bath together.
We get a nice shot of Lan butt, which
Yep.
I appreciate.
But it's absolutely not sexual, and they're so in sync. There are several times over the really just episodes 1 and 2, because Moiraine is unconscious for most of episode 3.
Yeah, she is.
But over episodes 1 and 2, there are several times where it's very, like, just like the non-verbal communication between them is so well handled.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene when they come out of the Wine Spring Inn and they're talking about how it's not Nynaeve, but it could be one of the other 4. Lan doesn't say a word, and you can tell that he's communicating with Moiraine.
No, Moiraine doesn't. Or, no, that's before she goes to interview.
Is it?
I think there's a scene where...
It's after the bath.
It's after the bath. And Lan asks her, like...
He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say a word.
There's a scene where Moiraine also doesn't say a word. And he asks her a question, she doesn't answer, and he's like, well, then we've got work to do.
That's the bath.
Is that the bath?
That's the, like, end of the bath.
No, the only thing they talk about in the bath is that it could be warmer.
No, they talk about other stuff in the bath.
It's a great scene. Lan's like, it could be warmer. She's like, I'm surprised they have this at all. He's like, it could be warmer. And she's like,
She channels and makes it warmer.
She channels and makes it warmer.
Yep.
And then he's just like, yes, thank you.
Yep. But no, it's very, very good. He, like, starts moving when she's saying that she thinks something should be done. Like, before she's even done saying it, he's doing it.
Oh, yeah, because, like, when they travel over the river at Tarn Ferry, and the guy's like, we need to go back for my family, and she's like, what do you think that's gonna happen? And Lan is already moving to cut the rope,
Right.
and, like, as she says, we can't let you go, he chops it. So he's like, he already knows where she's going with it.
Right. I mean, it's a well blocked out scene, but it's also a very well acted scene because it's believable. It's very, very believable that Lan just is doing that. It's not like the actor was told because his blocking was supposed to go there. Like, he's just doing it because that's what needed to happen.
No, and you can definitely tell that the two actors have spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Even just like when we were watching the New York Comic Con panel, every time that she was speaking, Daniel Henney was just like gazing adoringly at his Zoom screen. Like, like, I love everything that's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And it's just like I adore you. And she clearly adores him too, because every time she talks about Moiraine and Lan's connection, she's like, she gets the same, like, they clearly adore each other, and it comes through in their acting, and I really appreciate it.
I'm going to be very interested to see how other Aes Sedai warder pairs are done.
Baron and Tomas.
Justice for Tomas.
Justice for Tomas.
Also, justice for Bella. Where is Bella?
I need to finish my point about Moiraine going through the questioners thing, and she's just like telling, going back to that where she's with the questioners, she's going through and she like has this wound, and the questioner like is, manhandling her. Right. And Bornwell's just like, may I see the wound?
Right.
And so there's like this difference between the two that is drawn.
He asks, and he's more gentle with it, and then he goes and tells them to go to an Aes Sedai.
Because only an Aes Sedai can heal that wound, because it's Trolloc poison. And the questioner's just like jingling his key, like his Aes Sedai rings, which is...
Yeah, Valda's sinister. The actor does a really good job of it, too.
Yeah.
Very believable. Although, again, how did they do it? I need to know. I hope we get an answer. It's going to bother me.
Moiraine is also clearly more afraid of the questioners in this as well, because when they get back...
Well, there's a lot of them.
Well, when they get to the part right before Shadar Logoth, when she's, like, clearly unwell, and he's, like, giving her back her ring, she's like, did you see how many rings he had?
Right.
And then, Moiraine can't wake up, and then they go to Shadar Logoth, and she's just like,
right.
Where are we? You've killed us all.
Yeah. In between that is...
That's where the Where's Bella comes in.
That is where the last time we see Bella is in Shadar Logoth.
When one horse gets disintegrated, which I don't know if that was Bella or not, if that was Bella.
What I'm hoping is Bella is the horse that Nynaeve is riding.
Only 2 horses got out.
No, Nynaeve is riding a horse, and Lan is on Mandarb and is guiding Aldeeb along.
But Egwene was riding Bella.
Yeah.
Bella and the rest of the horses escape, and then...
I'm hoping
Mandarb and Aldeeb are just, like, chilling. They're like, they see a bunch of black ooze, and they're like, we're not phased. Until our owners tell us to move. And then they go, but, like, where is Bella?
Like I said, I'm hoping it's the horse that Nynaeve is on.
Like, maybe Nynaeve, like, comes across Bella as she's creeping up on Lan.
Or, like, Bella, like, caught up with Aldeeb and Mandarb and Lan and Moiraine. Like, I'm hoping that that's what happened.
I am too.
Because where is Bella? So, I think it's in between the White Cloaks and Shadar Logoth, we have, maybe it's before.
No, it's after after, because I think
it's after the ode
the questioner.
We have Moiraine's story time.
Yes, that is after the questioners, I believe.
Which I like in the books. I like listen up, you backwoods fuckers. It would not work for the show. No. And I think that what we got is just as good.
There's another great Matt moment, because they're like all traveling around. They just got done with questioners. Moiraine is looking rough.
Yeah.
And he's looking around at everyone and just starts singing.
Yeah, and like a weird, like old song about Manetheren. The song is Weep for Manetheren.
And Egwene immediately joins in, and then Perrin comes in with those like baritone low notes. Yeah. Which is fantastic.
It's really good. And then Rand joins in.
At the very end.
At the end. And Moiraine gives the Emmonsfielders the story of Manetheren.
She's like, it's good to remember Manetheren. And Matt's like, it's just a song. I don't know who Manetheren is.
Yeah. See, okay, so before I get to what I'm also going to say, that Matt is what I want to see more of. I want to see more of the general relief Matt. Not just quippy Matt, but Matt is the relief character.
Yeah.
He relieves other characters and makes them feel more at ease.
He does that with Perrin in Shadar Logoth.
He does. But other than that, he's kind of just quippy.
Yeah, because like Lan gives his story time. He's like, okay, two things. One, that's more words than you've said today, or I think at all.
Right.
And two, why did you bring us here?
Right. So I need more of like relief Matt and
line.
not just quippy Matt. I want the same amount of quippy Matt. I just also want more relief Matt. But one thing I noticed in them singing the song is Rand's the last one to join in about this song about Manetheren.
Which is the two rivers.
It's remembering the old blood, right?
That runs through the two rivers.
Right. And Moiraine says that the old blood runs deep in them. The old blood doesn't run deep in Rand al'Thor.
No, it doesn't.
He's not from the two rivers. He's not from there. Presumably he's Aiel because he looks like an Aiel. And actually there is a line in some book or another about the ancient blood raised by the old. Just the scene says a lot about the characters because you have Matt chiming in, Matt starting it to like relieve everybody.
Yeah.
Egwene jumps in because she's there. She's in for it. Perrin joins in as like a supporting role.
And he comes in with just like the supporting line.
He's under everything and steady. And Rand comes in at the very end because he wants to be there the least. And the song is not about him.
No. When you explained that to me the other day, I was just like, oh, I hadn't picked up on that, and that's a very good,
It's fantastic.
Fantastic directing.
There are other bits about story time that are great, but we cannot talk about them.
Because I haven't gotten there yet.
Because they're foreshadowing.
Okay. But we do get Moiraine's story time, which I really enjoy.
We do. It's very good. And she's not feeling well while she's telling it. It's really good. It's a very high point in episode 2, which is, I want to say in the middle. I've seen some reviews of episode 3 that put episode 3 below episode 2, but I honestly think it was high. I think it was better.
I don't know. Episode 2 and 3 kind of run together for me. Episode 1 is a very clear, it almost felt like a movie. Because it was bookended by a Moiraine quote, it was ended by a Moiraine quote.
Yeah.
It felt like its own thing. And episode 1 didn't run into episode 2 as well.
No.
Whereas episode 2 and 3 kind of just story-wise, run together more.
Well, that's why I think that episode 1 really smells of heavy, heavy studio involvement.
Yeah. But I think that it's going to end up working.
It's fine for a pilot.
It's fine for a pilot. And I think it's going to get more people to watch the show. Because the show isn't for the book readers, really.
No, not entirely. I mean, it is partially because it's a very large built-in audience.
Yes,
it's a very dedicated audience.
It is for also the people who don't read the books. It's
right.
They have a lot of target audiences to fill with it. It's not just book listeners or book readers, and it's not just people who might watch the show then read the books. It also has to be for people who will watch the show and never pick up the books.
Yeah. It did feel a little bit like they were trying to hit too many targets. They have this, they very much center women in power in episode 1, which is good because that's the way the world is in the eye of the world. But then they also have too many other plot points that are trying to draw people in that none of them kind of land as well as they could have.
I guess I can see that.
If they had I think they should have started with the women's circle thing and with Nynaeve being the braided queen of 2 rivers.
Going to the women's circle thing, just to talk about Egwene a bit. You know, she gets yeeted off a cliff. She basically channels, or at least becomes one with the river and survives whatever.
She surrenders. I wonder if that's foreshadowing for how you touch Saidar.
And, you know, then she goes into the inn and everyone cheers and she's like drinking with everyone because, yeah, you're part of the women's circle now. And her dad's worried when she comes in because he's like assumed that she might die doing this.
Yeah, like why do they do this thing that might kill a bunch of women? Was it a special thing for somebody who might be a wisdom? I got that vibe.
Her dad immediately hugs her and he's like, I was so worried.
Yeah. Slight tangent. We cannot trust her dad. He is an innkeeper who is skinny. Can't trust him.
All right, we can trust him. He's the calm, level-headed voice. You know, and then Moiraine comes to town, and that's like a little bit of a weird scene, and like there's gambling, and Matt...
Again, she just kind of like fades into view. It starts with her very fuzzy in the background, and she's like walking forward, and she fades in, and I'm like, okay, she's been introduced already.
We get a couple of things about that scene that I love, and I just want to touch on real quick, that like Nynaeve is the first person to say anything to Lan, and she's like got her hand on her dagger, which is just like teaser for how Lan falls in love with her. Anyway.
Oh, you actually tried to kill me.
Fantastic. Later, after everyone goes to bed, Rand and Egwene are told to finish up the dishes.
I know where you're going with this.
I have two things. One, as they're doing dishes, you know, Egwene rolls up her sleeves.
She's got
a scar on her arm, and Rand looks at it and is very sad about it.
And they linger on it.
What is that scar?
Why would you do that and then not touch it for 2 episodes?
What is the scar? And like it shows up. Like it's like they remember to put it on her for all of the other scenes, at least like go costuming and makeup department. Like you remember to put it there because I was on the rewatch. I was looking for it in every scene that she had her arms exposed. And then 2, just that scene in general. Why does Rand have game?
Not allowed. It's not allowed.
So, like, in the scene with Tam talks about how, like, he used to pick, when he was a child, he used to pick berries and bring them for Egwene. And he remembers this, and he has, like, he's, you know, talking to her and trying to get her to tell him at least how, like, she's like, I can't talk about it. She's like, you can at least say if it went good or bad.
Right.
Like, it's me. Like, you can just give a generic answer. I just want to know how you're feeling.
Pulls a berry out of his pocket, and why does Rand have game? This isn't allowed. Rand can't be good with women.
He's just like, you know, she's worried about something, he just like kisses her, which is also just like...
And then they fuck in the common room at the Wine Spring Inn.
And he's like, he tells her this thing about having to pick the berries, and then he pulls a tiny little berry out of his pocket and tries to feed it to her. And then she's like, has this been in your pocket all day?
Rand is not allowed to have game. It's not allowed.
It's solid game, though. Like, it's a good move.
Damn.
That's not allowed.
Not at all.
I am kind of for it, though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm also, like, it's not allowed, but also,
not
like...
allowed. No.
He starts to get game when he meets Selene in Great Hunt.
He does.
So maybe just older, because they aged him up 2 years. He has game now.
Maybe
he's just a late bloomer.
Just a matter of time. I think the only thing we have left to touch on is Tom's introduction. We talked a little bit about Tom. We talked about his song. He's introduced late. In the books, he's there in the Two Rivers. Here, he's introduced in Breen Spring.
I've been going back and forth, and I think I've landed on I like this introduction of Tom better than the books. Because if you listened to season 1 of our podcast when I read through Eye of the World, I didn't trust Tom until he threw himself at a Myrddraal to protect Rand.
This Tom is more immediately trustable.
Yes, because they introduce him late, he's kind of like a jerk at the beginning, but like he's a gleeman, he steals Matt's money, but then the second time we encounter him is when Matt's going to steal something from this Aiel that the town murdered.
Yeah, and he's there to
bury him. And so that's like
he gives him...
There's something about you, and like he talks about the Aiel in a way, like he explains the Aiel and the veil, which was helpful.
He's clearly worldly.
He's clearly worldly.
And he gives the Aiel, like, very specific burial rites.
Yeah, like, it seems Aiel specific, because it's like, may you find water, and they're from a desert.
Water and shade, warrior of the threefold land.
Yeah. So he clearly knows stuff. And he's also burying this guy. And then, once we find out that Dana has a dark friend, and she steals Rand's sword and chases him through the village, and she's talking about dark friend stuff, he just, like, knifes her in the throat from, like, 30 feet.
A good distance.
And then is like, you're coming with me.
Right.
That was a dark friend.
Yeah.
We're going. And that just makes more sense to me as like, no, especially knowing Tom's backstory. But like, if I had been introduced to him in that way, he's clearly there to protect Rand and Matt at this point. At the beginning, I wasn't sure why he was bothering to go. Because clearly they're going off with an Aes Sedai and a warder.
Right.
So they've got protection.
Right.
Why was he going to?
Yeah.
Right now, he's just trying to protect 2 kids from a dark friend.
Yeah. No, I liked it. The only thing I didn't like is I didn't like Tom stealing from Matt. That's not, especially like the person who would steal from Matt isn't necessarily the same person who would bury somebody killed wrongly.
I think he was trying to teach Matt a lesson.
But why? How? What lesson? He pickpocketed a pickpocket for Matt's coins and then kept them.
And then Matt wasn't going to give a donation for the Gleeman, and then, it did seem a little bit weird. I think it did provide a moment, because then Matt pickpockets him after helping bury the Aiel, and then they introduce each other.
I think it's another one of those like shorthand things to be like, okay, Tom's good at sleight of hand, which can extend to his knife throwing skills.
Yes, I think it is a little bit of a shorthand, and I honestly think Matt needs to get taken down a peg anyway. So
it's Dagger Matt.
Dagger Matt.
Yeah, I saw some things where it's like, why is Matt such a dick in episode 3? And it's like, he has the dagger.
Do those people not read the book?
I don't know if it was book readers or not book readers.
But like, he's very clearly, and Rand actually asks, like, what is wrong with you?
Right. I like that.
Because it's like all of a sudden.
Yeah. I need, so there are 5 things I need coming out of episode 3. I need what they're doing with Matt and the dagger to continue. I think they did a good job in episode 3. There are some plot lines that are at risk because of how they did it.
Not encountering Mordeth.
He
does just kind of walk out. He hears the whistling and then he hears the whispers. And I think the whispers are drawing him, and I think that was to be like Mordeth.
Yeah.
Like the whispers.
So I think that there's plenty of room to do it.
Once Moiraine finds out about the dagger, I think that she'll be like, did you hear whispers? And then she might explain that was Mordeth.
Maybe.
Or I feel like there's going to be some explanation.
Yeah. There's room. I just want them to continue, and then I want them to take that room with what it needs to be done. I want more hints at Rand channeling, because there are 8 episodes. We are 3 episodes in. I think Rand breaking down the door was a hint.
I think that might be supposed to be the lightning, but
it's not obvious enough for it to be the lightning.
That's fair. It could be a combination of, because I still don't see the Bella thing when we were in the first book. Like the first time that I noticed that Rand could channel was the lightning.
Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to. That's when you're supposed to realize.
So I think that the door is, if they do another one after that, I think that the door is a good first indication that there's something up with him.
Same. But I think they need to do that. They can't just drop it on us that Rand's the dragon.
Yeah.
Which, we're in episode 3. That feels like a little bit of a risk here, is that they're just going to drop it on us.
That's true.
I need an explanation of Perrin's wife. I need more from that. I need an explanation as to how the White Cloaks captured and killed an Aes Sedai. And then this one is just because I love the books so much, and this is the most negotiable of them. I need some stuff directly from the books. Weep for Manetheren was great.
You want a one-to-one.
I want a one-to-one.
Scene
doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be life-changing. I just want to see what I read directly come to life. Just a little bit.
I can see that. I think that...
Like, I'm on board with the adaptation changes.
I think...
By and large. I love the books so much, and I want to see just a small bit of that
I kind of don't want to. Too much.
No, not too much.
And not more than one scene.
No.
Really. Just because then we get into the territory of... The comparison I made when we were talking about this earlier is that, like, I love the Harry Potter series. I love the books. I mostly love the movies, but the movie that pisses me off the most is movie 6, because it just like ignores book 6 entirely.
Right.
But because the first 5 were one-to-one, what were trying to be one-to-one adaptations, any change that they made, I'm just like, why did you bother changing it?
Oh, yeah.
But with this, because they've changed so much, I can treat the books and the show as separate.
Yeah.
And then it also, I think as long as they don't pull a Game of Thrones, like you were saying, you know, the last 2 seasons of the Game of Thrones show ruined the book series for
They did
you.
a little bit. I don't think that'll happen here.
I think, but that's also because Game of Thrones was trying to be a 1-to-1 for so long, and then the reason that the last 2 is because there wasn't material for there to be a 1-to-1. So when a show tries to do a 1-to-1 adaptation and then they make any change, it's just bound to destroy things.
I 100% agree, and that's why all I want is I just want to see one small thing exactly as it was.
Yeah.
It can be tiny. I just want one small thing. And there might be some small things, but I took away from episodes 1 to 3 that this is an adaptation.
Yeah.
Through and through, this is a different turning of the wheel.
Yeah. They have some elements where they're like nodding at things. Like there's a scene when, you know, in Winter Night, they have a character whose name I recognized from the first book. It just has a random villager because we were watching with subtitles. We watch everything with subtitles. We have auditory processing problems. So like I saw the name in captions and it was just like a random villager, but they named her a random character. And so they've got like nods to the books that aren't important, which I think is fun.
Yeah, but I just want one small corner of this to be basically just lifted from the pages. Small. I like what they're doing with the adaptation, and I think that overall it is 100% the way to go. And I also think, like you said, that if they end up fucking it up, which I don't think they will, but we're only 3 episodes in, it's still a possibility.
Yeah.
If they end up fucking it up, it's not going to taint my interpretation of the books at all.
Because they've changed so much already.
It's a different piece of media.
And most of it is told with love. The only thing that I said that I didn't feel like it was told with love is the Layla thing. And that's just because it just feels very much they are causing Perrin pain just for the sake of causing him pain. And it didn't feel like it had any purpose.
Right.
Which, like I said, kind of feel it's just like it's trauma.
Yeah.
And it's just unnecessary. Like you don't just like cause your characters trauma for the fuck of it. Like you do it because they've got to overcome it.
Right.
Not just like sad boy times. Like
exactly.
At least the actor's not being all like sad boy Perrin.
That's one thing I will say. Everybody has acted the hell out of this. Even episode 1 with its problems, I loved all of the performances.
Yes. I am a little sad that Matt's gonna be different in season 2.
Barney Harris is fucking killing it. And like, I want to know what's going on, but no one said anything, which means that it's probably something personal.
Yeah, if it was he was terrible to work with, someone would say something.
Right, it would have been leaked. Somebody would have said something, and so
like it would have been like when Hotch got kicked off the show in Criminal Minds because he punched a director.
Yeah,
like. They didn't talk about it, but it came out.
Right. So, I mean, like,
so I think it's just personal.
Yeah, I want to know what happened because I'm a very curious person, and I love the shit out of Barney Harris as Matt. I think the new actor will do well, and I just want Barney Harris to be doing well as a person.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to know what happened because I want him to be okay.
Yeah.
Because like we haven't heard anything from him. He wasn't any red carpet things.
Which makes sense if they recast him. Like, why would you do that to your own show? But
like maybe if he had to drop out because he had like conflicts, but he could maybe make an appearance. I just want are you okay?
Right.
I'm worried.
But yeah, all of the performances have been amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't surprised with Rosamund Pike, but
yeah, I kind of think Rosamund Pike is maybe one of the weaker performances. And that's not to say she's bad. Everybody else is excellent.
I think that Rosamund Pike is doing as well as she always does, so it doesn't feel...
That could be it.
I think it's because she's just fantastic.
But like, the actors for everybody else, they've just been so good.
Oh, so good.
I have been way more impressed also with the actor for Rand than I thought I was going to be.
I was a little worried when I was watching the New York Comic Con panel because he seemed very aloof and like he didn't know what... Because he was saying like, oh, supposedly the Heron marked blade is like for Blade Masters and stuff. And so I was like, oh, he hasn't read the books.
No, he's the furthest.
He's read 11 of them.
Yeah.
So he could just be very aloof and be really invested, which does feel like Rand, actually.
It does. And he does a really good job of the like slow to anger but forceful anger that Rand has.
Yeah.
Like, he has a scene where he's shouting at Moiraine, and it's great.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
It's fantastic. So, recurring segments time. These will be a little different.
Some of them are the same.
Some of them will be the same. Some of them will be a little different. The one one of the ones that will remain the same is ship update. And I think the ship update is just a massive fucking Nynaeve armada.
Nynaeve. We didn't talk enough about it. And so this is a great time to talk about Lan and Nynaeve. When we see Nynaeve at the end of episode 2, like, Lan's got Moraine and she's like just unconscious still.
Right.
And Nynaeve just comes up behind him and like sticks a sword to his throat and is like, "You take me to them or I'll slit your throat." And the look on his face, it's great acting. It's a combination of like curiosity, like, how did I not hear you? Was I just too focused on Moraine? Who are you? And also like, but who are you though? Like,
yeah.
It's like this great moment of just like,
It's great.
I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me.
Yeah.
And then we see more interactions between them because she's just like, in the next episode, he manages to stand and she's still like got her sword pointed at him and he like walks closer to it.
Yeah.
And like it like is like at his throat and he's like, "We both know you're not gonna kill me." And then she does try to kill him. And he's just like,
"Oh, you actually tried to kill me."
Like with some like almost fondness.
Yeah.
Like just it's like surprise, but like amusement. I am loving the dynamic between the two of them.
It's
like,
quite good.
It's quite good. You see the look on his face. He's trying to figure Nynaeve out in the rest of those scenes.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic.
How do you feel about Rand and Egwene fucking?
I like it.
Yeah. It feels like a natural thing for them.
Because they're 20.
Right.
Or in the books, they're 17? Question mark? That age is never given. But I'm putting them at 17, 18.
Yeah.
So I like that there's like an actual relationship there because I think it makes their attachment to each other throughout books 1 and 2 make a little bit more sense if they actually had a physical relationship.
Yeah.
Even if they hadn't like actually had sex, but if like there wasn't even an implication that they'd kissed before.
Right.
So they've clearly had some sort of emotional, like, and they really actually thought that they were going to end up together.
Yeah.
So that I liked. It has another byproduct, and unfortunately Perrin being married has the other side of it. Like, the Egwene having a relationship with Rand, and Perrin being attached to someone else, too.
Kind of kills the Perrin Egwene.
Yeah, which I don't think was meant to be shippy in book 1, but it read as shippy.
Yeah.
And so there are scenes when they're running away from the wolves after Shadar Logoth, and they're like huddling for warmth, and
it just
being
just reads as friendship.
It just reads as like this genuine, like,
it's close friendship, but it's
a loving friendship. I mean, not the same as Lan and Moraine, because that is a weird bond that I don't think any normal human to human can attain.
No.
But it's like there's an understanding and a tenderness there, but it's not sexual in any manner. Yeah. And I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I like that it's not shippy.
Yeah. Favorite moments? What's your favorite moment?
Oh.
We'll do just between all of these episodes, since there are 3 of them, and it's kind of hard to separate them out when we've watched.
I don't know. I kind of have several.
Oh, so. Okay, we'll give them.
I do love the strawberry moment.
Okay.
Like, it's just good.
Wait, that's illegal. You're not allowed to like Rand having game.
But actually, if I had to pick a favorite moment from episode 1, it's when a Trolloc just screams at Nynaeve, and she pulls out her knife and just like shrieks back at it.
Yep.
Peak energy.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I don't know that I have one for episode 2, but episode 3 is definitely like just the Lan and Nynaeve, like.
Yeah. Mine for all 3 is Weep for Manetheren.
That's good.
It's not directly from the books, but it could have been.
Yeah. I think it was a good way to have that listen up, you backwards fuckers.
Right.
Like, speech that we loved so much from book 1.
Yeah. Now, a new recurring segment, episode ratings out of 14, because there are 14 books, and yes, we're that podcast. So you can do this all together or each one.
I think I have to do it all together because I've seen all of them now.
Okay.
I feel like an 8.59.
Out of 14?
I feel like, yeah, because like people think that 3 stars is a bad rating. And I think 3 stars is a good rating. That's in the middle.
Okay.
So 7 out of 14 for me is still a good rating because it's like halfway, like.
That's a failing grade, though. Think about it like letter grades.
3/5 is also a failing grade. It's a 60.
That's not technically failing.
Was at my school.
but it's not technically failing.
Well, that's why I'd say, like
if you were to rate it out of 100%, that's still 60%. That's not very good.
80, or no, that's true. 14 is hard.
14 is hard.
So
We're going to do it anyway, though.
Like a 9.
Okay, that's actually lower than I would have given them all together. I think 9, maybe 8 is about what I'd give episode 1. I'll put episode 2 at like a 11. Episode 3 at like 11.5. It's not much better than episode 2, but I liked it a little bit better.
Yeah, I just like...
None of them were like top tier episodes of TV.
I think my ratings might change once I have the entire series in perspective. Like if we went and watched it a third time after I went and watched it. But like it is, we fought about having this segment because like it feels like rating chapters to me. And It just is weird. Like, so my ratings are going to be all over the place because it's not something that my brain gets around.
But episodes of a TV show have to stand on their own as episodes. Chapters of a book do not.
Which is why we landed on having this segment.
Yes. And we'll probably do a rating for the whole season as well.
And I think that my rating for that will be much more solidified and be able to...
Maybe we do the rating for the whole season out of 8, which is how many seasons there could be.
No, we're just sticking to 14.
Okay.
Don't make things more complicated for my math.
I love making
14 is already complicated for my math.
I love the Wheel of Time. I like complicated things.
I'm aware.
All right, this was episodes 1 to 3. Next time, which I suppose when we release this will be tomorrow, but really next week is when the next podcast episode will come out. Episode 4, which is titled The Dragon Reborn. I don't think it's going to be about The Dragon Reborn. I think it's going to be about Logain.
But yes, next week we will be back discussing episode 4, The Dragon Reborn, because you made that a little bit confusing.
I like confusing things. Bye.
All right, bye.